Today we are in the conservation lab and we are going to be looking at David Milne's attic to learn more about his techniques.
Attic is a really interesting painting because it reveals a lot about David Milne's personal life as well as his working ethic. So it is essentially a painting about painting. We see the view of an attic kind of littered with canvases, and most of them are landscapes. And David Milne, of course, worked prolifically in the genre of landscape.
When I unframed the painting and lifted it up, I could see that there were shapes and lines underneath that didn't correspond to the upper composition. And we could also tell that it was likely upside down. So the first thing we had to do was actually reorient the painting.
The landscape underneath seems to be a hilly vista with some small trees, or maybe they're rocks, and probably a body of water.
The techniques that we used were transmitted light and transmitted infrared light.
I was surprised at how simple the process was, actually. We were essentially shining a light through the back of the painting, and it revealed so much information.
Often the things you can see are carbon-based materials, such as underdrawings, initial sketches of any kind, sometimes initial brushwork.
I found it really interesting that Milne didn't use any elements of that underpainting in the attic. It's a completely different painting, like disregarded that landscape underneath. He's, using these artworks as blank canvases.
We know Milne's process quite well. He wrote about it in letters and sketchbooks, and his technique typically involved laying in areas of color similar to how you would do for a watercolor painting, so very thin glazes and paint layers. And then at the end, when he had sort of laid everything in, he would go in with his whites and fill in the areas that were highlighted or blocked in white areas.
There are parts of this painting that reveal a lot about David Milne's fascination with light and the effects of light. For example, in his landscapes, you can see light reflecting off of a lake, but here in the attic, we see light reflecting off a white wall, and that tells us about his amazing ability to kind of utilize a bare surface. You can see delicate brushstrokes and texture, and it's in fact one of the most beautiful elements of the painting, this white wall. Milne often strives to pare down a painting to its most simple parts, and he does so both in oil painting and in watercolors. And we have some beautiful examples of watercolor by David Milne on view in the Thompson Canadian Galleries.
The reason that we examine this painting more closely is to give us more information about Milne's technique, the state of conservation and condition of this work, so that moving forward we can better care for the work. I think it's great. You get a really personal look at how he was working through things. He was changing his mind, he was reusing things, and I think that's a really interesting takeaway.
This project really revealed to me Milne's unstoppable urge to make artwork. Even if he doesn't have all of the appropriate materials, he's willing to sacrifice one painting and paint over it. He just really had this unextinguishable desire to keep making work and keep developing his practice.